Try that again. House be in order. Prior to going to recess, the House was at the 7th order. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 251 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 255, making possible the immediate consideration of House Bill 255.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended and the House will have under consideration House Bill 255. Good gentleman from District 13.
Mr. Speaker, could I have a point of personal privilege?
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. My beautiful mother, Cheryl, is here in the gallery today, and she came over to see my dad, and she also brought with her my little niece, Allie, so I'd just like to make them welcome.
Gentleman from 2.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Point of personal privilege, please.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to welcome high schoolers from Timberlake and Lake City today that are visiting the Capitol in some competition. Thank you.
Welcome to the Capitol. The House will have under consideration House Bill 255. Good gentleman from District 10.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would request unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 255.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll try to speed this up a little bit and not talk too long on it, but there is some issues with this particular piece of legislation I think you need to understand. House Bill 255 amends fiscal year 2013 appropriation for Department of Labor by shifting $16,100 from the Unemployment Penalty and Interest Fund and $9,000 from the Special Administration Fund to the Miscellaneous Revenue Fund for a total fund shift of $25,100 and net zero impact on the original appropriation. Additionally, it appropriates $19,500 professional services from a federal grant for the Idaho Human Rights Commission for outperforming the existing contract. This is also the fiscal year 2014 appropriation for the Department of Labor, and this is where we get into some issues that I hope that we can explain to you so you understand what we're really doing. The bill is only a fixed portion of the department's budget and does not include funding for the other 600 positions in the continuously appropriated part of the budget. This bill appropriates $17,273,600 for 5 programs and limits the number of full-time equivalent positions to 47.04. With the exception of line item number 8, the Year 4 General Fund phase-out for the Human Rights Commission, all of the other line items in this particular budget are funded because of what we're doing with 2 different funds. Historically, the Board of Examiners and the Workforce Development Council approved expenditures from the Penalties and Interest Fund and the Employment Security Special Administration Fund. Now, these funds were created previously, and they were not on budget. They were off the budget, so we never looked at them. If you look at this year's budget of $17 million, a year ago, the total budget for the Department of Labor was around $5 million. So you can see we had quite an amount of money that was not even on our budget at that point in time. And so what we're doing this year is we're putting those 2 funds on the budget so that now the legislature will have to appropriate those funds, and we have oversight on those funds, and it gives us a lot more transparency in terms of what's happening with this particular budget. That line item number 8 is a transfer again. It basically transfers $138,800 from the general fund to the dedicated fund, and so we actually have a reduction in the general fund of 30.7%. The increase of the total budget, of course, looks extremely high, but it's because we're bringing all those funds onto budget now that were not on the budget previously. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a good budget, it's a good bill, and it does make it much more transparent for us to see what's going on in the Department of Labor.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 255 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? Clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 58 ayes, 7 nay, 5 absent and excused. House Bill 255 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 255 will be transmitted to the Senate. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 251 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 232, making possible the immediate consideration of House Bill 232.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended and the House will have under consideration House Bill 232. The gentleman from District 10.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 232.
You've all heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to introduce House Bill 232, which is a bill clarifying the ability of insurance companies to electronically deliver insurance documents to those policyholders who wish to receive such documents electronically. With the advent of the Internet, more and more business is being conducted online. Goods and services are being bought online, and the documents associated with those transactions are increasingly being electronically delivered to consumers. Banks, credit card companies, and many, many other types of businesses are already sending billing notices and related account information via email and posting that same information online so consumers can access the information when they need it. Such easy online access to account documents benefits all involved. It spares companies mailing and printing costs and frees consumers from having to store paper copies that they may end up losing anyway. We may all be able to attest to that. If you've ever gotten your insurance packet in the mail from your auto insurance, your declarations pages that are about an inch thick. And this bill simply allows insurers to do whatever other businesses are already doing, and because the bill simply gives consumers the option of receiving documents electronically, I ask for your green light on this bill. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 232 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Representative Daly, how do you vote? Representative Daly votes aye. Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 67 ayes, 0 nay, 3 absent and excused. House Bill 232 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 232 will be transmitted to the Senate. The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 251 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Concurrent Resolution 14, making possible the immediate consideration of House Concurrent Resolution 14.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended and the House will have under consideration House Concurrent Resolution number 14. The gentleman from District 26.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask to dispense with the reading of House Concurrent Resolution number 14, even though that's only slightly shorter than the resolution itself.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman has the floor.
Thank you. HCR 14 rejects Fish and Game Docket 13-0108-1204. This docket contained new rules to modify the motorized hunting rule as it applies to big game hunting. There were committee members' concerns about the lack of formal negotiated rulemaking for this divisive issue. The House Resources and Conservation Committee rejected this docket. Adoption of HCR 14 reflects the recommendation and concurrence of the House Resources and Conservation Committee. I ask your support in this measure.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Concurrent Resolution number 14 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Daley? Representative Henderson? She just did. Representative Barrett, how do you vote? Representative Barrett votes aye. Does any member wish to change their vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 70 ayes, 0 nay, 0 absent excused. House Concurrent Resolution number 14 has passed the House. Is there a correction to title? Hearing none, House Concurrent Resolution number 14 will be transmitted to the Senate. The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 251 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 244, making possible the immediate consideration of House Bill 244.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended and the House will have under consideration House Bill 244. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that we cease the reading of House Bill 244.
You've all heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman from District 14 is recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, members of the House, this bill deals with fire district. In our current code, when two fire districts consolidate, the law requires us to use the higher of the two mill levies between the two fire districts. This is a concern because sometimes they don't need that higher rate, and there's some other issues that are involved with it. So we got together with a bunch of the fire folks and came up with a resolution to that, and that's what this bill is. And what this bill says is that when two fire districts consolidate, the commissioners will get together and decide what's necessary to maintain those two districts and what that mill levy needs to be. If that mill levy is greater than 3% of the lower mill levy, not the higher one, but the lower mill levy, then there is a requirement that they go to the voters of those two districts to determine whether they want to pay that higher tax rate. If that mill levy is 3% or less than the lower mill levy rate, then there's no requirement to go to the voters and they can use that mill levy rate. There was a lot of discussion. There was no opposition in committee. We did try to get all the players on the table when we put this bill together, and I'm not aware of no opposition. Other than I did hear there was one concern earlier from one of our colleagues, but I think that they misunderstood what this bill did. Hope you can support it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 244 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Have all the members voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 70 ayes, 0 nay, 0 absent excused. House Bill 244 has passed the House. Is there a correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 244 will be transmitted to the Senate. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 251 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 45 as amended in the House, making possible the immediate consideration of House Bill 45 as amended in the House.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended and the House will have under consideration House Bill 45 as amended. Good gentleman from District 24.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that we dispense with the reading of House Bill 45 as amended.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman is recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, sir. I present for consideration House Bill 45 as amended. This basically is dealing with the professions, vocations, and businesses primarily to do with surveying. The first objective of this bill has to do with the definition and practice of engineering and land surveying that is needed to properly meet the technical flood mapping certification requirements as required by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, for flood elevations and flood insurance determinations. FEMA requires an elevation certificate for the purpose of qualifying for the National Flood Insurance Program. The certificate must be signed and sealed by a land surveyor, engineer, or architect, and here's the catch, authorized by law. This bill is basically making sure that that is now authorized by law. The second objective has to do with the ability of the board to dismiss charges in a disciplinary manner, and it has more to do with making people feel good when their charges are dismissed, or the complainant. They want to have a better way to describe why a board might not pursue disciplinary action because the complaint had been found as a minor matter that is not cost-effective or appropriate. So they're changing the word trivial to de minimis. Might add, we wanted to get a little Latin into this as well. So, and then finally, the third and final objective is to clarify the board's authority to reissue or reinstate a license as well as replace a lost or destroyed or mutilated wall certificate. And I want to point out that the replacement of a wall certificate is literally that certificate someone places on the wall, and to clarify, it does not require a hearing, and it's only a $10 fee basically to replace that wall certificate. Anyway, with that said, this came out of the Business Committee with the due pass, and it has the blessing, after amendments, of the Idaho Society of Professional Land Surveyors, the American Council of Engineering Companies, Idaho Society of Professional Engineers, and I might add the Ada County Highway District. I ask for your green light. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 45 as amended pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 70 aye, 0 nay, 0 absent, excused. House Bill 45 as amended has passed the House. Is there a correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 45 as amended will be transmitted to the Senate.
Mr. Speaker.
Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 251 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 98 as amended in the House, making possible the immediate consideration of House Bill 98 as amended in the House.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended and House Bill 98 as amended is before the House. Good gentleman from District 6.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that House Bill 98 as amended not be read.
You've all heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman is recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 98 refers to the indigent program, what many people refer to as the CAT Fund. Just to remind those who aren't as familiar, this is a program that is managed both by the counties and in a reinsurance manner by the state. The state fund, the state part of the fund is managed by a board. There are two representatives, the good gentleman from 32 and myself sit on this board. And this program has undergone a number of changes over the last few years. Basically what it does is it reimburses to the providers for people who meet the conditions of indigency. And the condition of indigency in the statute is basically an inability to pay your medical bills within 5 years. So it's not a health plan, but rather it's a financial assistance program. Anyway, what House Bill 98 does is basically three things. First, it changes and clarifies who obligated persons are. These are the people that are obligated either to for consideration of their income and assets when trying to decide if you can pay back within 5 years. To state that if someone claims a person as a dependent, they are responsible for their health care. So that means if you have a 20-year-old that you claim as a dependent on your tax return, the parental income and assets are included in the determination of indigency. The second point is it clarifies the date at which the 5-year look-back period or the 5-year payback period is calculated as the date of the first claim. That was an area of confusion. And the third thing it does is it allows the providers to get an extra 30 days to provide information if they request it. It used to be you got an extra 30 days if you had good cause, but determining what good cause was very difficult. So if somebody requests an extra 30 days to provide the claims and other materials, they will be given that, but no extensions beyond that. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, it really is very minor changes to the CAD law, and that's really all we can do at this time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 11.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield to a question?
Will the gentleman yield to a question?
Gentleman yields.
The gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And good gentleman from 6, as I was reading on line 25, page 6, it's now changed from where they needed to submit their billings to now they have to submit their medical records along with that. Can you explain why that's changed from billings to their medical records and the claim?
Gentleman from 6.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, and good lady. Part of the review function is to review for medical necessity. So in order to assure that these claims are valid and for necessary medical services, claims above a certain dollar amount are reviewed by a physician hired by either the county or the CAT board. So we need the medical records to make the medical necessity determination.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 98, as amended, pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 70 ayes, 0 nays, 0 absent, excused. House Bill 98 as amended has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 98 as amended will be transmitted to the Senate. The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 251 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 91 as amended in the House, making possible the immediate consideration of House Bill 91 as amended in the House.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended and House Bill 91 as amended will be considered by the House. Good gentleman from District 21.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 91 as amended.
You've all heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman is recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last November 6th, you all won your elections. Congratulations. And in 2 years from now, if you fail that, you may not collect unemployment. Sorry about that. You're on the list. And so are paper boys, in-home Tupperware salespersons, and others. Also last November 6th, there were some folks hired to help with the election that were hired that morning and then for lack of work the next day were subsequently let go. These were temporary election workers. And this past year, for the first time, some of them applied for unemployment on that case. This simply adds temporary election workers to the list of those who would not qualify for unemployment benefits. With that, I'd ask for your support on this bill and stand for further questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 91 as amended pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 70 ayes, 0 nays, 0 absent, excused. House Bill 91 as amended is passed the House. Is there a correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 91 as amended will be transmitted to the Senate. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 251 now be used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 113 as amended in the House, making possible the immediate consideration of House Bill 113 as amended in the House.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended and the House will now have under consideration House Bill 113 as amended. Good gentleman from District 10.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 113 as amended.
Without objection, the gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this particular piece of legislation deals with agritourism. That's not terrorism, that's tourism, okay? There is a difference. Agritourism is a fairly new topic when we start talking about what goes on in Idaho, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult to define in some terms because it can run the gamut from annual festival events to farm and ranch vacations, such things as festivals, wedding, family reunions, corn mazes, different types of things that we have that agriculture is starting to do right now. Of course, there are many benefits to that, even from the standpoint of income that the farmer might derive from those type of activities they have. But along with the benefits, there, of course, are some liabilities that you have to think about. And so that's one of the things that this bill does. It takes a look at what the liabilities that we might have in agritourism. And so what this piece of legislation does is to limit the liability, take that liability away from individuals, provided that, and it's in the bill, there's a section in here that talks about what the individual has to do. If they do not provide the signage that talks about the liability aspect, they are not free to take away that liability. And there are some very definite things here that they must follow in terms of doing that. There is nothing in this section that says that if the farmer is negligent or if he does anything that is beyond what he needs to do to provide for safety and such, then he is still liable for those activities if someone should get injured or if there's a death occurs or something else along that line. So that's the brunt of the whole piece of legislation here. There is one other section here at the very end of the legislation that you might have looked at if you read through the bill, and that deals with taxes. And one of the things that I did check with, I checked with the Attorney General's office on this to find out what would happen on the taxes, because there was some question about could that land then be taxed as a recreational activity or something else rather than an agricultural operation as it still is. And they said as long as it's still used for farming practices, it still needs to be taxed strictly as an agriculture and not as an activity for tourism or such of that nature. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I think this is a good bill, and I would certainly appreciate your support. There's a number of other states, Kansas, Utah, Louisiana, and Maine, just to name 4, that have had similar legislation dealing with this, and this does have the support of the Farm Bureau and the food producers of Idaho.
Thank you. Is there further debate? The gentleman from District 6.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the good gentleman yield to a
The
question?
gentleman from 10 yielded a question.
Gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good gentleman. It refers to agricultural professional, and I was looking at the definition, and that is any person. Does that include both corporate and individual persons?
Mr. Speaker, good gentleman from 6. Yes, it could. It can do both.
Thank you.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 113 as amended pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Representative Gannon. Does any member wish to change his vote? Clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 69 aye, one lawyer, 0 absent excused. House Bill 113 as amended has passed the House. Is there a correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 113 as amended will be transmitted to the Senate. The gentleman from District 14.
Can't top that one. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the roll call used for the suspension of rules on House Bill 251 now be used for suspension of rules on House Bill 30 as amended in the House, making possible the immediate consideration of House Bill 30 as amended in the House.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended and the House will have under consideration House Bill 30 as amended. Good gentleman from District 16.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I begin, may I have a point of personal privilege?
The gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I've been often heard in the halls of this building to say that there are 3 parties in the legislature, Republicans, Democrats, and lawyers, and I guess today I was proved right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I proceed to present the bill, Mr. Speaker?
You may proceed to ask unanimous consent to not read the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman from District 16 is recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill has been submitted to us by the Supreme Court. It would make a needed correction to our laws defining perjury and provide an alternative way of satisfying the requirement for providing an oath or verification of a written document, an alternative that is already used in some other states and that will, among other things, facilitate e-filing of documents when that becomes available in the near future. With regard to Section 2 of the bill, more than 24 provisions of the Idaho Code make reference to documents that are to be signed, quote, under penalty of perjury, unquote. These appear in, among other places, the Uniform Probate Code, the Uniform Commercial Code, and statutes regarding registry of child custody orders from another state. Yet persons who sign written statements saying that they are making the statement under penalty of perjury may not be subject to the penalties of perjury at all. And this is because, under Idaho Code Section 185401, a knowingly false statement can be the basis for a perjury charge only if it is made under oath. An oath must be administered by a judge, a clerk of the court, a notary public, the Secretary of State, or a person authorized to take testimony. Section 2 of the bill would amend the definition of oath for the purposes of the perjury statute and would ensure that those who made a certification or declaration under penalty of perjury would be subject to a charge of perjury if they made a knowingly false statement on a material matter. Other states have included similar provisions in their perjury statutes. Section 1 of the bill provides an alternative way of satisfying the requirements of an oath or verification. And the old-fashioned way of doing it, signing an affidavit with a notary saying that you subscribe and swear to that under oath, is still permissible. The bill would provide that the requirement can be satisfied simply by signing a statement that the person is certifying or declaring under penalty of perjury pursuant to the law of Idaho that the statement is true and correct. Other states have done it other states that do this in virtually the identical way are California, Oklahoma, and Virginia. This provision, in combination with Section 2 of the bill, will provide a more convenient means for many persons to satisfy the requirement of an oath or verification while ensuring that they still are subject to the penalty perjuries of this state. It will also help to facilitate e-filing. Thank you very much. I will stand for any questions.
Is there further debate? Good gentleman from District 34.
Would the good gentleman stand for a question?
Will the gentleman yield to a question?
Gentleman yields.
The gentleman yields.
Good gentleman, suppose you have a document such as a deed or a lease or something like that. Would this allow a sentence at the end of that saying under the laws of perjury, I sign this and eliminate the need for a certificate of authorization by a notary public?
Gentleman from 16.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentleman. If an oath is currently required to be subscribed to the instrument, this bill will allow a simple statement that it is made under penalty of perjury, and that will have the same effect.
Thank you.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 30, as amended, pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 70 ayes, 0 nays, 0 absent, excused. House Bill number 30 as amended has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 30 as amended will be transmitted to the Senate. Without objection, the House will now advance to the 15th order of business, announcements. Are there announcements? Good gentleman from District 22.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just an announcement. The majority party will not caucus today. We will caucus at the beginning of next week sometime, and so you can have this afternoon off. And those of you who have been coming late can go ahead and go up there today and sit for a little while. Thank you.
The lady from District 26.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My announcement kind of goes the other way. The Democrats will be having caucus, and we will be meeting at 3. Those that can get there.
Further announcements. Good lady from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to remind you that if you have topics for study for the Joint Legislative Oversight Committee, that the meeting will be next Thursday, March 14th, to consider those. And if you can have them in close to Monday of next week, that would help.
Further announcements. The clerk may read.
Following are the Standing Committee meeting announcements for this afternoon. Business Committee will not meet this afternoon. Henderson Chairman. Commerce and Human Resources Committee will not meet this afternoon. Hartgen Chairman. Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee will meet upon adjournment. East Wing Room 42 Wills Chairman. Resources and Conservation Committee will meet upon adjournment. East Wing Room 40 Denny Chairman. For Friday morning, Education Committee will meet upon adjournment of the House, East Wing Room 41, DeMordaunt Chairman. Health and Welfare Committee will not meet Friday morning. Wood Chairman. Revenue and Taxation Committee will meet upon adjournment, East Wing Room 42, Collins Chairman. State Affairs Committee will meet upon adjournment, East Wing Room 40, Lurcher Chairman. And for Friday afternoon, Agricultural Affairs Committee will not meet. Environment, Energy, and Technology Committee will not meet. Local Government Committee will not meet, and Transportation and Defense Committee will not meet.
The House will now advance to the 16th order of business, adjournment. The House is at the 16th order. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn until the hour of 8 a.m. Friday, March 8th, 2013.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries, and the House stands adjourned until the hour of 8 a.m. Friday, March 8th, 2013.